Welcome back. Rod Rosenstein firing back over GOP lawmakers who have threatened articles of impeachment against him.
There have been people who have been making threats privately and publicly against me for quite some time, and I think they should understand by now the Department of Justice is not going to be extorted. We're going to do what's required by the rule of law, and any kind of threats that anybody makes are not going to affect the way we do our job.
Well, the lawmakers led by House Freedom Caucus Chair Mark Meadows argue that the Deputy Attorney General is stonewalling their efforts to obtain documents over surveillance of President Trump's 2016 campaign, along with bias in the FBI. And Special Counsel Robert Mueller wants to delay Michael Flynn's sentencing by at least 2 months. According to a court filing, the special counsel's team and attorneys for the former National Security Advisor aren't ready for the hearing, quote, due to the status of the investigation. Flynn, of course, pleaded guilty in December to lying to the FBI as part of the Russian meddling probe. He agreed to cooperate in a plea deal. So with the Mueller probe leaking like a faucet, where should the investigation go from here? Here now to weigh in, President of Security Studies, Jim Hansen. Jim, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Good to be with you, Heather.
So a couple of big leaks, all of these questions that were leaked regarding questions that were allegedly going to be asked to President Trump. What do you think about all of this?
You know, you asked where the Mueller probe needs to go from here. I think it needs to go home. Mueller hasn't found anything. There is no evidence of the one thing he was given a hunting license to look for, and that is collusion between the president and the Russians in the 2016 election. That didn't happen, so he's not going to find anything. What he's doing now is continuing to hassle anybody who knows the president, and he's found some of them guilty of some petty crimes, but none of it based on his actual job.
What about this list of proposed questions? We now know that the topics were supposed to include Michael Flynn, James Comey, Jeff Sessions, coordination with Russia. I think it was about 52 questions total. And if you take a look at the questions, they really aren't specific. So they seem to be, for lack of a better word, fishing.
Well, they are absolutely a fishing expedition, and it shows that. The president should take this list and basically cross it out and say, you don't have anything warranting my time. I know he wants to confront his accuser and confront this, Inspector Javert, who's been hassling him for a year, but he needs to remember that the presidency is well above Mueller, and go ahead and not talk to him. Tell him he's got 30 days to drop any indictments he may have, and then pack his bags and go.
What about this leak that came out of this threat from Mueller to subpoena President Trump? What if that happens?
That's something that should absolutely positively be ignored. The presidency is he's the chief executive of our government. Mueller is a contract employee of the executive branch. If Congress wants to deal with this, they can go ahead and drop some articles of impeachment if there is a crime. But the president does not jump just because some special prosecutor says to.
All right, so let's talk about this second topic, the money and Iran. This is what I was thinking about yesterday when Benjamin Netanyahu came out and he talked about all this evidence that they have that Iran has not been following the deal, not surprising to a lot of folks that they were supposed to be following. President Obama actually handed a lot of money over. People allege it was funneled directly to terrorists. So what about this money, this amount of money? Where is it now?
It is in the hands of some of the worst actors in the entire region. Hezbollah got it. Hamas got it. All the bad guys who Iran uses as their proxies to cause trouble in the region got paid. Obama made the worst deal anyone's made in modern history. He didn't just get his lunch money taken by the mullahs on the playground. He gave away his parents' mortgage and our security. President Trump is right to kill this deal.
So there was this $1.7 billion cash payment that was made to Iran by the Obama administration. You were just talking about. Then there was $150 billion in unfrozen Iranian assets thanks to the Iran deal.
Yeah, absolutely. And all this money never made it to anything useful in Iran. The people in Iran still can't buy a dozen eggs for less than, I don't know how many rials. Their currency's collapsing. The mullahs and the Grand Ayatollah have been shoveling this money both to their terrorist proxies and to their offshore bank accounts. All Obama did was make things worse. President Trump needs to take this deal out on the East Lawn, burn it, and maybe he, John Bolton, and Sarah Sanders can get around it and make some s'mores to make it something useful.
All right, Jim, thank you so much. Appreciate your opinions. You're definitely heated up this morning. Thank you. Love it. Have a great day. Well, Russian forces, let's talk about that, using a battle bot to fight off ISIS soldiers. That's an armed robot fitted with a gun and a camera controlled by a soldier carrying out a raid on suspected terrorists. Well, counter-terror forces say that 11 jihadists were killed. Guns, bullets, knives, grenades, and a homemade bomb. All of that was found at the scene. And UN Ambassador Nikki Haley warned that she would take names of countries that don't have our back, remember?
It is outrageous to see so many countries who we support go against us at the UN. We're watching their votes, and yes, we're taking names.
Well, a new State Department report now detailing exactly who is in our corner and who isn't. The findings reveal UN member states only voted with the U.S. 31% of the time last year, and that's down 10% from 2016. In a statement, Haley says, quote, "This is not an acceptable return on our investment. American taxpayers pay for 22% of the UN budget." And Fox News live in West Virginia. Did you see this? That's where the Republican Senate primary debate became a sparring match, to say the least. Congressman Evan Jenkins, State Attorney General Patrick Morrisey, and businessman Don Blankenship all battling over credentials and who's more aligned with President Trump.
I'm actually the only one with a conservative record of results. We've gone after Washington a lot harder than these guys ever could.
Conservatives don't go out and take campaign contributions from Planned Parenthood.
Who is going to lead the Senate to support the President Trump agenda?
I'm the only candidate on the stage who not only has voted for Donald Trump at the convention and in the Electoral College.
It was like, who has the most MAGA? Well, the three Republicans set to square off in Tuesday's primary. They're vying to unseat Democrat Joe Manchin in November. Well, there's a new bird in the nest, a pair of bald eagles at the National Arboretum in Washington, D.C. Look at that, welcoming this brand new little eaglet. DC-6 is the sixth offspring of her parents, Mr. President and First Lady. The birth live streamed on the DC Eagle Cam. DC-7 is expected to hatch sometime this week. Oh, we're going to give that one a new name, not DC-6 and DC-7. Well, the time now is about 20 minutes until the top of the hour. And the first casualty, the media outlet that just announced it's done with the annual White House Correspondents' Dinner. A new controversy for the school that took down the American flag after President Trump was elected. And the pro-abortion group that a school is teaming up with to host a summer camp about feminism. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching Fox and Friends First. The Hill now becoming the first media outlet, I should say, to bail on the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Well, it won't send journalists to next year's event, they say, after the controversy sparked by comedian Michelle Wolf's vicious jokes.
I'm never really sure what to call Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Like, what's Uncle Tom but for white women who disappoint other white women?
Well, the Hill owner, Jimmy Finkelstein, released this statement in part, quote, "There's simply no reason for us to participate in something that casts our profession in a poor light. Major changes are needed to the annual event." Wolf has faced bipartisan backlash for making fun of White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders, but she refuses to apologize. And some more fallout for Bill Cosby after his conviction on sexual assault charges. Yale University rescinding the comedian's honorary degree given to him in 2003. A Yale spokesman releasing the following statement, in part, quote, Yale is committed to both the elimination of sexual misconduct and the adherence to due process. We reaffirm that commitment with our action today. And a descendant of the real-life Pocahontas has this message for Senator Elizabeth Warren. Prove your heritage.
I respect Senator Warren as a U.S. Senator. I just wish she'd take the DNA test. And if she took the DNA test, then that would end a lot of this controversy.
Yeah.
And if she was part American Indian, I'd be the first one to welcome her into our heritage.
Well, the Massachusetts Democrat has been accused of claiming a Native American heritage to further her career, which she denies. The controversy leading to the famous Pocahontas nickname given to her by President Trump. Well, Facebook, it is working to move past scandals with some new security features. Tracy Crosco from our sister network, Fox Business, here with how we can apparently wipe out our history now.
Yes, Heather, the new feature is going to be called Clear History. So Facebook is going to let you delete all that information that it's gathered on you from other websites and apps. This, of course, is following that Cambridge Analytica scandal. Many people have been concerned about the collection of their personal data. So this is a response to that. Now, you can kind of think of it as the browser history when you clear that from your computer, a similar thing here. And this is what Mark Zuckerberg said about the new feature. He said, this is an example of the kind of control we think you should have. It's something privacy advocates have been asking for, and we will work with them to make sure we get it right. So that will be rolling out within the next few months.
And I read yesterday that Facebook is now going to do some sort of dating app to compete with Tinder and those
Yes, they're going to let you opt into kind of a dating profile on Facebook.
I think people were already kind of using it for that anyway. So let's talk about this new vodka. Apparently it has the same great taste, but it's a little easier on your waistline.
Yes, possibly. A little less alcohol content in it. It's got 30%, launching by Ketel One. It's going to be called Ketel One Botanical. They're really doing this to compete with other vodkas like Tito's, handmade vodka, which is made from corn, advertised as gluten-free. So this is rolling out. They're going to be calling it Ketel One Botanical, as I said. They're going to be marketing it as a made-from vodka drink because they can't call it a vodka because it doesn't have that 40% typically that most vodkas have.
Yeah, and also following along the lines of like the Skinny Girl brand.
Something like that.
Yeah. All right, thank you so much, Tracy.
Thanks.
Well, the time now is almost half past the top of the hour, maybe. And we're going to talk about liberals. And they're taking aim at a gun-toting campaign ad.
I'm Brian Kemp. This is Jake, young man interested in one of my daughters. Jake asked why I was running for governor.
A healthy appreciation for the Second Amendment, sir.
We're going to get along just fine.
That candidate running for governor in Georgia is firing back at critics. He joins us live up next. Welcome back. Get over it. That's the message from Brian Kemp. He's a Republican candidate for governor in Georgia who is creating some controversy with his campaign ad. Watch.
I'm Brian Kemp. This is Jake, young man interested in one of my daughters.
Yes, sir.
Jake asked why I was running for governor. I said 1.
Cap government spending.
2.
Take a chainsaw to regulations.
3.
Make Georgia #1 for small business.
And 2 things if you're going to date one of my daughters.
Respect.
And?
A healthy appreciation for the Second Amendment, sir.
We're going to get along just fine.
Well, here now is the man featured in that ad, Georgia Secretary of State Brian Kemp. Brian, thank you very much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
Good morning, Heather. Thanks so much for having me on.
So what's been the reaction so far to your ad?
Well, it's been interesting. It's driving the liberal media crazy, but I've been on the road literally all over our great state of Georgia since Friday when the ad started airing. And people are just, they love that. You know, they think it's funny. They know it shows my love for my girls and my family and my appreciation and strong support for the Second Amendment. And people are like, don't back down, keep this up. I'm like, there's no way we're doing that. You know, we're trying to encourage people to share the ad and get our message out not only about my conservative values, but just being a small business owner as well. And, you know, my message for the campaign for our governor's race.
Yeah, I know that some of the messages have been mixed, though. I did post it on Twitter this morning, and the majority of the responses were positive from the folks that saw it there. This person said, as a proud 2A supporter, and most importantly as a father, I would wholeheartedly support him. That was from Mike Breeden. In terms of the negative response, where did you get your idea for this, and do you think it does send any type of negative message?
Well, I'm sure some people may take it as a negative, but for me, it's been overwhelmingly positive. I've had a record of standing up to the left, to the liberal media in the Secretary of State's office, fighting for keeping our elections secure. If anybody knows anything about elections, they know I've been a fighter. I'm going to be a fighter for the Second Amendment. And I know this state. I know what the people want. They want somebody that's going to stand up for their values, stand up for their family, and for what they believe in. And that's what I'm doing. You know, that's what I've done in my public service. It's what I'm doing in the governor's race, and it's what I do as a father.
Yeah, we can take a look at some of the polling right now for the race. Casey Cagle, who I understand is the lieutenant governor, is in at 41%, and then you're right behind him at 10%. How big of an issue in terms of, you know, percentages is the Second Amendment there in the state of Georgia?
Well, it's very important here in the state of Georgia, and it's not only the Second Amendment's important. It's just we have great values in the state of Georgia. We've got a great business climate. I've been a small business owner for over 30 years. You know, I'm a father of 3 teenage daughters, and I think people are ready for a governor that's going to tell them what they're going to do. They're going to stand up and fight for them every day. I hear that all across our state. It's like, who's out there fighting for us? Who's going to push back? And really hold their principles dear. And I have a record of doing that, not only on the Second Amendment, but other conservative issues. And I'm going to continue to do that as the next governor of this great state. Who's Jake? Does Jake really date one of your daughters? You're breaking up on me a little bit, Heather. I asked who Jake is. Who is Jake? No, I'm just kidding. You're not really breaking up. We want everybody to know who Jake is. We want people around the country to take a look at this ad. You know, consider helping us out where we can keep it up and keep on fighting. That's our plan. Okay. All right. And Jake's okay. Thank you so much for joining us, Brian. Good luck in the election. We appreciate it. Thank you, Heather. Have a great day. Well, the time now is about 8 minutes until the top of the hour. And About Face, a school ditches plans for modesty ponchos at prom after sparking some backlash about this.
It's a method of shaming, a method of bullying, method of degrading the females.
Well, the school's response to the social media firestorm. But first, belly rubs. It's the only way that one canine officer will start his morning, and it will certainly make yours.
Appreciation. Well, it comes and it goes, but
Yeah, fresh eyes, allergy season hitting a lot of folks, including myself. A live shot of New York City there as the day begins, midway through the week. We appreciate you joining us. The same college where students tore down and burned the American flag after the 2016 election will host a feminism summer camp for high schoolers. Now, the Young Feminist Collaborative, that's what it's called, at New Hampshire College in Massachusetts, will also discuss reproductive justice and how to bring a gender lens to social issues. The 2-week course costs nearly $3,000. And a school is backing off its plan to cover up students who show up to prom underdressed. A Catholic school in Michigan planned on handing out these. They're so-called modesty ponchos to girls who were dressed what was deemed inappropriate. Now, the school now changing its tune, though, after some of those students and the parents called the policy a form of body shaming.
It's a method of shaming, a method of bullying, a method of degrading the females.
And what did you think about that? While the ponchos will no longer be handed out, some of the students plan to boycott the dance anyway. And even dogs have days when they just don't want to get up and go to work.
My poor husband trying to go to work, and Django just lays flat on the ground. And it's only Tuesday. Just got Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday still to go to work.
Well, that is K-9 Officer Django. You can see him laying there flat out refusing to get into his partner's car for more than a minute. Finally, the officer persuades him with a little bit of a belly rub. I think that would work for everybody. That's great. That's a great idea. Well, finally, a 100-year-old handmade American flag. It's returning home. It's currently on display in Washington, D.C., but it will finally make the journey to Scotland, where it was actually made. A group of people spending hours sewing the stars and stripes so it could be used for the funerals of 200 American soldiers whose ship was torpedoed during World War I. The flag will be on display for several months before returning to D.C. Well, that wraps up this hour of Fox and Friends First. Fox and Friends First continues now. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.
It is Wednesday, May 2nd. This is not a game. It's the President of the United States. That message to Robert Mueller after threatening a possible presidential subpoena. Also, how Deputy AG Rod Rosenstein could be targeted by House Republicans.
Firing back, Tehran turning the tables on Benjamin Netanyahu, slamming his findings about lying on the nuclear deal. Tensions mounting around the world as the French president steps up his calls to renegotiate, and John Kerry comes to Iran's defense.
What's more American than Budweiser beer? Well, how about a brew recipe straight out of George Washington's book? The Patriotic Premium with a presidential stamp of approval. Fox and Friends First continues right now.
Of this beer and watch the sunset disappear.
Well, as the good old saying goes, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. I just think it's a little too early, though. 5 o'clock a.m.
5 a.m.
Yeah. What do you think?
It's warm outside. I noticed a lot of people drinking yesterday when I...
So you're going to walk outside and crack open a beer right now?
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, once the sun comes up, maybe. Yeah.
Okay, good luck. Good morning. You're watching Fox and Friends First on this Wednesday morning. I'm Jillian Mealy.
I'm Rob Schmidt. Thanks for getting up early with us. A showdown brewing between President Trump's attorneys and Robert Mueller. Leaks now show that the special counsel is considering a subpoena to get the president to talk.
But GOP lawmakers also threatening to impeach Mueller's boss, Rod Rosenstein. Todd Pyro joins us now to break it all down. Good morning, Todd.
Good morning, Rob. Good morning, Jillian. A lot to break down. Special counsel Robert Mueller apparently told President Trump's legal team that he could subpoena the president to appear before a grand jury if Trump refuses an interview. That threat from a March meeting explained by Trump's former lead attorney, John Dowd. Now, Dowd resigned weeks later amid a dispute over how to answer Mueller's interview request. His latest twist comes a day after Fox News obtained a list of questions that Trump's legal team believes Mueller wants to ask. The possible questions cover Trump's interactions with key figures in the Russia saga, James Comey, Jeff Sessions, Mike Flynn, Michael Cohen, along with topics including a Moscow real estate deal, meetings with Vladimir Putin, and any back channel set up by Jared Kushner to talk to Russia before the inauguration. As you might imagine, President Trump not happy with the leak, tweeting, "So disgraceful that the questions concerning the Russian witch hunt were leaked to the media. No questions on collusion. Oh, I see. You have a made-up, phony crime collusion that never existed, and an investigation begun with illegally leaked classified information. Nice." Now, Dowd denies he is the leaker, although apparently the White House is skeptical because the leak pretty much frames Dowd in a heroic role. Meantime, Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein dismissed reports that House Republicans are mulling articles of impeachment against him.
There have been people who have been making threats privately and publicly against me for quite some time, and I think they should understand by now the Department of Justice is not going to be extorted. We're going to do what's required by the rule of law, and any kind of threats that anybody makes are not going to affect the way we do our job.
A group of GOP lawmakers led by House Freedom Caucus Chair Mark Meadows have reportedly drafted 8 articles of impeachment against Rosenstein. Rob, Jillian?
All right. See how this plays out.
Yes. More on this with the judge here later on in the show. Todd, thanks so much. A Russian fighter jet buzzes a U.S. spy plane, taunting it over the Baltic Sea. Defense officials saying the Russian jet performed a safe but unprofessional intercept, coming within about 20 feet of that U.S. Navy aircraft. However, American pilots tell officials they never felt threatened. This is the first incident between Russian and American military aircraft since January, when a Russian fighter jet came within 5 feet of a U.S. Navy spy plane.
The U.S. soldier gunned down in Afghanistan on Monday was part of the Pentagon's counterterrorism mission. 22-year-old Army specialist Gabriel Kand killed outside Kabul on his first deployment. His family in Colorado says he defined the word bravery.
He was called to be a warrior.
I feel very proud of who he is. He's the kind of son that any mother would be proud to have.
Kand joined the Army in 2015. This marks the second U.S. combat death in Afghanistan this year.
The Trump administration handling major foreign policy developments on two fronts.
Iran firing back at Israel over its nuclear claims, while John Kerry defends the Obama-era deal. This as plans for the historic face-to-face meeting with Kim Jong-un could be revealed at any time.
Griff Jenkins is live in Washington with all the details for us. Griff.
Good morning, Robin Jillian. There's a lot on the president's plate, and according to him, we may soon learn more details of that North Korean summit.
We're setting up meetings right now, and I think it's probably going to be announced over the next couple of days, location and date. The main thing is to get it done.
This is the deadline on the Iranian nuclear deal is just 10 days away, and Iran's foreign minister is firing back at Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu's revelations of those stolen plans. The minister's spokesman calling Netanyahu an infamous liar who has had nothing to offer except lies and deceits. And Minister Zarif taking to Twitter, attacking Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, saying on 4/12, Pompeo testified no need to worry about nixing JCPOA, as Iran not racing to a weapon before the deal, nor would turn to race to a weapon after. Now says time to revisit question of whether Iran can be trusted to enrich any nuclear material. So which one is it? And Iran's foreign minister isn't the only one tweeting. Former Secretary of State John Kerry, who was the lead negotiator of the Iran deal, defended it as working and warned against pulling out of it, saying every detail Prime Minister Netanyahu presented yesterday was every reason the world came together to apply years of sanctions and negotiate the Iran nuclear agreement, because the threat was real and had to be stopped. It's working. That's why Israeli security experts are speaking out. As for the incoming Secretary of State, Pompeo praised the staff at the department he'll soon lead.
You're patriots and great Americans, and because you want to be an important part of America's face to the world, my mission will be to lead you. The United States Diplomatic Corps needs to be in every corner, every stretch of the world, executing missions on behalf of this country.
And the president will swear in Mike Pompeo later this morning at 11. So a lot of moving parts on two big stories, guys.
Yeah, and a very busy man in a new job. All right, thank you so much, Griff.
President Trump is also feeling the pressure from European leaders as the deadline for decertification looms. Daniel Hoffman, a retired CIA senior intelligence officer, says unlike his predecessors, President Trump isn't going to kick this can down the road.
The Iranians are building up their capability, military capability in the Golan Heights. So it was a powerful expression on the part of Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel's concern, intelligence briefing. I think from our perspective, you know, President Trump does not want to bequeath to his successor a failed Iranian policy, similar to the one he's having to deal with on North Korea, where Iran is enriched with sanctions relief, where they've got an ICBM, because that's not covered in the Iran nuclear deal, capable of targeting our homeland, and then a nuclear breakout after the sunset provision closes out after 15 years with centrifuges and enrichment of uranium, so that they can break out with a nuclear weapon. I mean, that's not where we want to go.
All right, any country exempt from new metal tariffs will still face tough restrictions like purchase quotas. White House trade advisor Peter Navarro reportedly calling this a matter of national security. The decision comes after President Trump postponed imposing steel and aluminum tariffs on the European Union, Canada, and Mexico this week. Agreements must now be worked out by June 1st. Supporters welcoming the vice president to Arizona with a thunderous applause.
Well, hello, Arizona!
The VP speaking at an event in Phoenix promoting the new tax cuts.
Just over 4 months ago, President Donald Trump signed the largest tax cuts and tax reform in the history of this country. That's promises made and promises kept, Arizona.
Vice President Pence also spoke about illegal immigration and plans for a southern border wall. Jillian.
All right. Thank you, Rob. Hi. Facebook hoping to fix what kind of news you see on your feed. CEO Mark Zuckerberg announcing the social media site will start ranking news organizations by trust. Users will be surveyed to determine which sources are trusted. News sites with a high score will be promoted on the site. Those with a lower score will be suppressed.
All right, could there soon be a new branch of the military? President Trump signaling that it could be out of this world.
That would be the Space Force. We're getting very big in space, both militarily and for other reasons, and we are seriously thinking of the Space Force.
Interesting. The president floating the idea while presenting the Commander-in-Chief's trophy to the Army football team for its victory over both Air Force and Navy last year. Well, it is 10 minutes after the hour. We've seen the Obama administration hand over billions of dollars to Iran. Now the shoe is on the other foot. How Iran is being forced to cough up cash to relatives of the September 11th attacks.
An unlawful program, Texas leading the charge with a new crackdown on illegal immigrants. The lawsuit just filed to end DACA.
Crumbs that they are giving. Should they mow the grass so that people can't hide in it? Bowl of doggy do, put a cherry on top and call it a chocolate sundae.
Never gets old. Nancy Pelosi hoping those messages will carry Democrats through the midterms. The House Minority Leader vowing to take back control. But is this really what the party needs? That debate is coming your way next. Good morning and welcome back. A massive backlog of illegal immigration cases could cost even more taxpayer dollars. The Executive Office for Immigration Review says more than 1 million cases are still in the courts. This could prompt the feds to hire more judges to speed up proceedings. Another immigration group finding more than 680,000 illegals targeted for deportation are still living in the United States. A suspected illegal immigrant who hung out with celebrities is busted for drugs. Victor Yanez caught stashing 105 pounds of marijuana inside his Miami home, along with guns, counterfeit prescription labels, and $16,000 in cash. The Colombian man has been under investigation by Homeland Security for months. He frequently posts pictures online of his lavish lifestyle and vacations. Rob?
All right, Nancy Pelosi making a bold prediction for the November midterms, saying we will win. I will run for Speaker. I feel confident about it, and my members do too. But is Pelosi really what the Democratic Party needs? Here now to debate that is Republican strategist Ned Ryan and liberal political commentator Dr. Wendy Osefo. Guys, thanks so much for coming on with us this morning. And Wendy, I want to start with you, and I want to start with a quote from Pelosi, and here it is. It is important that it not be 5 white guys at the table. No offense, I have no intention of walking away from that table. So, Wendy, Nancy Pelosi, a 78-year-old multimillionaire. Is this playing a gender card in some way? I mean, what does it really have to do with that, I guess is my question.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily playing the gender card, because we all know that whenever diversity and inclusion is present, it makes the environment rich. But what Nancy Pelosi needs to understand is that on both sides of the aisle, whether you are on the left or the right, we need new blood. And one thing I want to underscore is that Nancy Pelosi has been able to raise over $16 million for her party. So the ways in which she has been able to enhance the Democratic Party cannot be understated. But that does not mean that we need to continue to do the same things. And so I would say for this upcoming midterms, we need to have an open context for who is going to lead the Democratic Party.
Ned, Republicans love Nancy Pelosi. You know, especially the last 4 years have been very rough for Democrats. You just had a special election in Pennsylvania where a Democrat, Conor Lamb, won, and he basically disregarded Nancy Pelosi. And a lot of people believe that helped him to victory for the Democrats. What do you think Pelosi should do, and what do you want Nancy Pelosi to do?
Oh, I want Nancy Pelosi to stay right where she's at. I mean, the Queen of San Francisco is a gift that keeps on giving to Republicans. She's literally writing the ads for us in the midterms. But I think that the fact is she's not going anywhere, and she's going to stay exactly where she wants to be for as long as she wants to be, because that's how it works inside of caucus leadership elections. You know, but the amazing thing to me is, Rob, she is literally the personification that the Democrat Party has nothing new to offer to the American people. All she has is an old way of doing things, an old tired message that's out of touch with the average Americans. I mean, her comments on crumbs for the average American and what they're getting back from the tax cuts really encapsulates her worldview. But as I've pointed out to people, as the Democrat Party is very much in the clutches of the far-left donors and base, the Democrat House caucus is very much in the clutches of Nancy Pelosi, and she's not letting go anytime soon. And as the other guest pointed out, leadership elections are often about who can raise the most money. Nancy Pelosi is raising a lot of money right now. But I think ultimately, at the end of the day, what's going to happen, Rob, whether Democrats take the House back or not decides Pelosi's future. If they take the House back, she will be Speaker. If they lose the House, she will not be minority leader.
That certainly makes sense. Wendy, I want you to respond to what Ned just said.
Yeah, I think that we need to make sure that the narrative is very clear here. It's not just a Democratic problem about having someone who does not appeal to the current demographics. The GOP also has the same problem. And so we have to be honest about that, about how both sides need to infuse new blood into their campaign. And he's absolutely right. Ned is absolutely right here when he says that, you know, the fate of Nancy Pelosi is going to be determined by whether or not we win the House. But again, this should be an open contest, because it shouldn't be something that's just given to her.
How did she keep getting, I mean, you know, it's been a long 4 years. Ever since Obama won re-election in 2012, they've been on a bit of a slide. They've given a lot of the House back to the Republicans. How does she keep staying in that position? Wendy?
Money.
Money.
One word. Follow the money, and that's just being honest.
And Ned, I was going to ask you the same question. You agree with that?
Yeah. No, I agree. It typically in these House leadership elections, it's about raising money. Yeah. And again, it's about actually having somebody that will challenge Nancy Pelosi. I'm not seeing any names of challengers. So until there's somebody that's legitimately going to challenge Nancy, she's raising the money. And the other thing is, too, Rob, they don't want to challenge her, because if they do take back the House committee chairmanships and she'll get to decide them, nobody wants to challenge her because of those two things.
Okay. All right. Hey, thanks for the debate, guys. We appreciate it. Wendy and Ned, we'll see you later.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you, Rob.
All right.
It is 19 minutes after the hour. Hundreds of migrants are trying to pour into his state. The California governor, Jerry Brown, is more concerned about the vice president.
The vice president said yesterday that the border is a problem in a particular area for the whole country.
I think Pence is a problem for those.
Well, that comment sparking some serious backlash this morning.
And forget Uber and Tesla. The Army could have unmanned support on the battlefield first. Okay, welcome back. Fox News live in West Virginia, where the Republican Senate primary debate became a sparring match. Congressman Evan Jenkins, State Attorney General Patrick Morrisey, and businessman Don Blankenship battling over credentials and who is more aligned with President Trump.
I'm actually the only one with a conservative record of results. We've gone after Washington a lot harder than these guys ever could.
Conservatives don't go out and take campaign contributions from Planned Parenthood.
Who is going to lead the Senate to support the President Trump agenda?
I'm the only candidate on the stage who not only has voted for Donald Trump at the convention and in the Electoral College.
Hope you guys are ready for 5 more months of this. The 3 Republicans set to square off in Tuesday's primary. They're vying to unseat Democrat Joe Manchin in November. Would be a big win for Republicans.
I'll be watching. Yeah. A campaign controversy is brewing down south. Republican candidate for governor in Georgia, Brian Kemp, under fire for holding a shotgun in his ad.
I'm Brian Kemp. This is Jake, young man interested in one of my daughters.
Yes, sir.
Jake asked why I was running for governor.
Kemp, the Georgia Secretary of State, joined us earlier defending it.
People are just, they love that. You know, they think it's funny. They know it shows my love for my girls and my family and my appreciation and strong support for the Second Amendment. And people are like, don't back down.
Kemp is one of 7 Republican candidates campaigning to replace Governor Nathan Deal.
It's a joke. And a rather funny one, too. All right, the Army making big moves to make self-driving vehicles.
Tracy Carrasco from our sister network, Fox Business, here with the plan to have unmanned support on the battlefield. This is interesting.
This is, yes, move over, Uber, Waymo, Tesla, because the Pentagon may be the first to have those self-driving vehicles. Now, this came out during a hearing on Capitol Hill. The Undersecretary of Defense for Research and Engineering said that the U.S. Army would have these self-driving vehicles on the battlefield long before they would be on U.S. highways and streets. This, of course, is because of the danger that soldiers face when they are in combat. More than half of the deaths are because these soldiers are driving, delivering food, fuel, and all of the supplies there. So hopefully this would cut down on that.
No, it's interesting.
Yes.
All right, so what is the deal with this beer that is produced by veterans?
I love this story. Now, Budweiser, they're coming out with a beer. It's the Freedom Reserve Red Lager, and it's a recipe that was written by George Washington. So not only is that cool, but it's going to be brewed by Budweiser veterans. And then on the back of each bottle and can, it's going to be featuring the signature of those veterans, and a portion of the proceeds will go to Folds of Honor. That is an organization that helps military families and their educations.
Awesome.
So that's available now through September 30th.
Love it.
I think it's great.
And Folds of Honor does amazing things.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Thanks, Tracy.
Thanks.
It is 26 minutes after the hour. As the caravan of migrants demand asylum in the U.S., DACA is now back on the docket.
This situation is a direct result of our weak immigration laws and our porous border.
What the new legal showdown means for dreamers.
And goodbye, policemen and firemen, the state that just approved gender-neutral job titles.